Interestingly enough, I've attracted the attention of one of my older detractors who's been with me for quite a while now, and haven't seen him in like months. So it's interesting to see him back on my forum. And we've been having our back and forth not only in the comment section but in personal messages as well. I'm sure many of you have met this particular individual, some of you have engaged in discourse with him, some of you don't think too highly of this particular individual, but whether you hate him or love him, to me is irrelevant as of this point. What is relevant is the fact that he sent me a message titled, "Proof That You Believe in God." And then I thought, well, that's strange. I mean, after all, I still think I'm an atheist. I don't believe in your God any more than I believe in any other. But apparently, this particular individual seems to think that they have proof that I believe in their God and only their God. The first point that was made in this message was that, yes, I talk a lot about the Judeo-Christian God. I've made it very clear in many of my messages to him and in many of my videos that I don't believe in his God nor any other, for the simple reason that I see no credible evidence to suggest their existence. And yet, he seems to think that I'm pissed off at his God and only his God. Well, I'll leave it to my audience to tell me whether I've ever really attacked the Judeo-Christian God in particular. I've definitely questioned the existence of the Judeo-Christian God. I've questioned its moral conscience. I've questioned how it can even possibly exist to begin with. And yes, I do get angry at some of the Judeo-Christian God's followers because sometimes I think they're full of shit. I hate how the followers of religion try and use their religion to justify their bigotry or their ignorance. And yes, I will get ticked off and I will tell them to shove it up their ass if they decide to try and impose that bigotry or that ignorance on me or anyone else. What really gets me angry is not that the Judeo-Christian God is an evil character. There have been many evil characters that I find distasteful, both in fiction and in reality. What really gets me is that people use the actions and the words of this evil character and use it to justify further evil, and then claim that it was all done in the name of good. That is a little insulting, and that I think is cause for concern and more than enough reason for me to discuss this in an open forum such as YouTube. Now, you might be asking, well, why do I focus on the Judeo-Christian God in particular? Well, I don't. If you have noticed in most of my videos, it's addressed to general theism, and I use the Judeo-Christian God as the example because it tends to be something that I can relate to. It's something that most people know about, and it just makes all our lives easier. Now, if you're wondering why I address mostly Christians instead of like Muslims or Jews, then you obviously haven't been watching my videos because I have addressed both Muslims and Jews. But why I address more Christians, I don't know. Christians tend to be the ones that are the most vocal, I think, of all three. They tend to be the ones that are more popular here on YouTube. The next point, I think, is what truly is the core of this discussion. My detractor says, if three people were inspired to kill in the name of like Darth Vader, if they were inspired to do so by Star Wars, would you be pissed at Star Wars? If a bunch of people were inspired to kill because of Lord of the Rings, would you be pissed at Lord of the Rings? Well, why are you pissed at people when they're inspired to kill by the Bible? Obviously, it's because you believe in it. I think it is just so tragic that people die, have died, and continue to die because they either do not believe in a God or believe in a different God than they're supposed to. Why do I make the exception for the Bible and for other things like the Bible, like the Quran, etc. Well, numbers has to be one major factor. I don't see a lot of people killing in the name of Darth Vader or Lord of the Rings. Seen a lot of people kill in the name of the Bible, in the name of the Quran. Yeah, compare like the odd one murder to several million, and I really don't see your point. But it's not only killing and murder that has me concerned, it's bigotry and ignorance as well, as I've mentioned previously. Um, it's that to me is the main reason why I think that Christianity and other religions like it are a cause for greater evil, and why Star Wars and Lord of the Rings are not. See, fiction like that, and your kind of fiction, at least from what I perceive, are two completely separate animals. One people know is fiction, one people don't take seriously, the other people think is fact. People take literally. People use as a guide for their lives. And when that guide is, I think, extremely flawed and justifies mass murder, rape, infanticide, genocide, filicide, then that tends to be a problem, no? So then he says, well, I understand why you might be pissed at the God of the Bible, but look at all the empirical evidence, and I'm quoting directly from this message, empirical evidence that I've just brought up. And you can go have a professional analyze your body language and show that you're all hostile and stuff. First of all, that's not empirical evidence you presented, not even close. Empirical evidence would be a written report of the signs I've shown that are clearly indicative of hostile behavior. Have you produced such a paper? No, I don't think you have. Um, if you got a professional psychologist to say something, then I would be a little more convinced. If you somehow were able to make a case that I am psychologically projecting my anger towards your particular religion or any other, then I would be a little more convinced if you had some evidence to suggest this. But your personal interpretations of my hostility and my anger is not anywhere close to empirical evidence. Furthermore, the evidence you presented prior to that, your reasoning, is also not considered empirical evidence. Because I can reason all I want for the fact that your God doesn't exist simply due to the fact that your God is so logically contradictory in so many ways. But, see, reason can only get you so far, and even if I were to grant that all of your premises were true, then that still doesn't prove that I somehow believe in your God. There are several things that really annoy me about this message. First of all, that you assume you know me better than I know myself, without the professional advice of a psychologist, without any peer-reviewed literature to support your thesis. That is one thing that I think is a little high and mighty on your part, that you have nothing but subjective conjecture at this point, and yet you're willing to say that you know me better than I know myself, on the internet, no less. Secondly, you don't even try or attempt to explain why you think that worshipping someone who would condone genocide or other atrocities like what your God in the Bible did in the is okay. I don't think you even tried to do that in this message, and that to me is a little disturbing. Finally, I suspect that despite all I've said in this video, you're probably going to just dismiss it and say, well, you're just angry at God and you don't want to accept my evidence that I presented. Well, I've shown you many reasons why I think that evidence is wholly unconvincing, completely arbitrary, and nothing more than pure conjecture. Now, if you want me to take you seriously, and I think that you do, then I'd highly suggest that you get some better information from more reliable sources other than your own subjective interpretation of my actions and a 2,000 plus year old book that has been proven to be demonstrably wrong on so many fronts that it would be impossible for me to describe them all in just one video. May the truth always be heard.